I'm Kendi Mutuma, Regional Manager, NTSA Thika. We are here today in Thika town to commemorate the World Remembrance Day. We started today in the morning at Vincentian. We did a procession from there to Thika town here, and we have had a very successful event. This is a global event that is held annually every third Sunday of November. So today we are here to remember the people who have died on the roads, the fatalities, the people who have survived, the victims. I think you saw the testimonials from the victims who are here today. So this year we had 4,103 fatalities, and yet December is not here, against last year of 3,942. So we are really looking forward to cap or to reduce the number of fatalities on the roads. Kindly, we want you to live just like you heard from so many speakers. We want you to live long. We want you to drive safely. We want you to be here with us longer. We don't want to report you or to have you as statistics in our fatalities. We want to see you and your family being safe. So drive safely. Of course, our highest numbers are on pedestrians, which is quite alarming. So pedestrians need to be more careful while using the road, crossing, or even walking in the roads. Our highest numbers are the pedestrians.
I'm Christopher Kinyo, Director in charge of registration and licensing at NTSA. And we have heard that we have given out the statistics of accidents that has happened. Fatal accidents, more than 4,000 to 4,000 this year, and double the same for other accidents, about 8,000 of serious injuries, people with serious injuries in the hospitals. And the theme for today's World Day of Remembrance was on ensuring that there is justice to those victims of accident, because what has usually it happens that sometimes maybe those who are affected in terms of compensation, in terms of their cases, sometimes it takes very long for those cases to be finalized. That's why we were here with all the stakeholders from the judiciary, from the police, and all stakeholders involved when it comes to issues to do with the road safety. So what we would like to urge our pedestrians, drivers, and even vehicle owners to ensure that all their vehicles are roadworthy. Pedestrians to be very careful, especially when crossing busy roads, and also for drivers also to observe the traffic rules, and also to be careful when driving those vehicles. On the issue of introducing curriculum in primary schools, that's very important, so that our children are trained or are enlightened on traffic rules, traffic regulations, and what they are supposed to do, especially basics like crossing the road. Because nowadays, if you ask a pupil on what they are supposed to do when crossing the road, they cannot explain. And that was there in the old curriculum, and that's why it is important to introduce road safety in school curriculum, so that those things are inculcated to our pupils when they are still very young. In terms of now use of technology, what we are saying is that when you look at our activities in NTSA, most of them 100%, almost 95% are automated, just as a way of ensuring that there is efficiency in the service delivery. These sensitization meetings that we have held today have been held in 17 regions across the country, and what we are saying is just to sensitize the drivers and all those who are involved, because what we are saying is that road safety is shared responsibility. It is NTSA, yes, we have our role to play. We have the role that should be played by the driver. There is that role that should be played by the pedestrian. So what we are saying is that everyone should be very careful. To be very, very careful. Issues to do with overspeeding. Of course, we are working with the police and other government agencies to ensure that those are also managed.
Traffic offenses on a wider scale or the wider parameter, we have cases like causing death by dangerous driving. We have careless driving, maybe where you have a pedestrian injured or another motor vehicle damaged. We have drunk driving, where somebody is driving while under the influence. We have obstruction. We have all of them. We even have, like for the border borders, failing to wear a reflective jacket, which attracts a maximum of 3,000 shillings. We have the conductors, for example, the PSV badge, the license. There are very many. But if you look at it from that wide angle, all these offenses can actually cause injuries or fatalities if left unattended to. For example, obstruction. I mean, you've obstructed, you're on the road. Somebody else might be coming on that highway at very high speed. What happens? Your guess is as good as mine. So they are all manner of traffic offenses, but they are all brought under different provisions of the law, and they all have minimum, maximums, you know. Yes. What we have in Thika, because again, our court is situated on the highway, we have weighbridge offenses, traffic cases, like evading the weighbridge. And remember, this vehicle evading the weighbridge is probably overloaded. As a matter of course, they should always go through the last lane into the weighbridge as long as a vehicle is 3.5 tons and above. So that is one of the offenses. We also have the offense of obstruction. We have the offense of careless driving. Generally, we have causing death. We have quite a bit of that. And we have the other basics like driving license, driving without a driving license, maybe inspection sticker, insurance. There are vehicles that actually are on the road without insurance certificates. They are not insured. So those are among the few, the many. Those are the few among the many that we have. Because if you look at, for example, let me give a good example of the weighbridge cases and the traffic NTSA, the speed gun. You know, we don't need an officer to come and say you are driving at this kilometer per hour as opposed to this, because it is generated. That report is computer generated. When we're talking about evading a weighbridge, you can actually see that vehicle evading the weighbridge, and that report is generated at the spot. On that, you know, at the scene, if we may say so. So yes, we advocate for use of technology, because as I've pointed out, in the weighbridge cases where we have that report generated at that spot, where we have the traffic, the speed police, where they're able to capture you moving at whatever speed, so that when you come to court, you're denying, but the report speaks for itself. It even says the time, the time it was generated to the point of seconds. Yes, we've just had a very lengthy session and a good forum at that on reckless driving. Remember, we've just said we're talking about justice. The theme for this year is justice. Our MC just said something. You are the first, what do we say? Road risk or traffic risk unto yourself. As a pedestrian, you're carrying your soul. As a driver, you are in charge of managing or controlling that motor vehicle. And now that we're going to the festive season, let's be careful. Even as passengers, you can't just sit in a motor vehicle where you see, like we gave the example, there's no insurance sticker, the driver is not even in uniform. You know, there are certain basic things that you will look at as a passenger, to take your own responsibility and get out of that vehicle and get into the next one. When you find a border operator who is drunk, why are you boarding that motorcycle? Why are you boarding the motorcycle, the four of you? For those of us who will be operating the vehicles, driving the vehicles on our roads, the border people, the tuk-tuk drivers, remember, this is a machine and you're in control. That's why you're called the driver or the rider. Get all your papers in order, comply with the law, and all shall be well. A warning to the reckless drivers: you will meet the full force of the law. You have had the stakeholders here saying each stakeholder will do their part. The police will get hold of you, they will bring you to court, and the judiciary, as I said, is here because of its commitment to all this that we are doing today and the objectives of the NTSA. So you will come and you will find a judiciary that is not smiling with you, especially for factors over which you have control. So I'm just asking for responsibility on our roads. Be you a pedestrian, a driver, a motorcycle rider, whoever it is your personal responsibility, and it starts there. The judiciary on its own cannot fast track cases. And most of the time you'll find that cases are taking too long, especially the compensation cases in court, due to technicalities. You find maybe the advocate for the defendant, and the defendant is always the insurance company or the offending vehicle, the driver. You find they apply for adjournments on very many reasons, some genuine, of course, some are delaying tactics. And sometimes you find that the plaintiff is actually, the claimant is more than ready to proceed. But you know, as a court, you have to take into consideration everything and everybody on board, in the sense that each party has a say. So when one party applies for an adjournment, of course, as a court, you can regulate how many times should one be allowed to adjourn, or when should the case proceed. Let me say this, you'll find there are so many cases that are concluded in court. There are judgments that have been delivered in favor of the claimant or the victim's family, where it's a fatality or a fatal accident. And you'll find the insurance company has either come back and said, give us stay, we want to go to the High Court. Even if the trial court declines to give the stay, then they according to the law, they can move to the High Court and get a stay. Perhaps they are not satisfied with the judgment, they are not satisfied with the amount, probably in damages that was given, they feel it's excessive. But then at the end of the day, it is more of a delaying tactic to compensate the victim's family. So that if all stakeholders came on board and it's collaborative effort, it's possible. It's possible to have these cases concluded within such short time. Now at Thika Law Courts, we now have small claims court, where any claimant with a claim less than 1 million can move the court in a very simplified form by filling a form and just get assisted filing their claim, serve. Within 60 days, the case is heard and determined. So the rest now, once the judgment is out, is for the insurance company. My take on this is that the insurance companies need to come on board. They need to get realistic about the claims we are having in court. Why am I saying this? Take a case of a claimant who was a matatu passenger, and this matatu was involved in an accident. When we are talking about who's to blame, this passenger was just seated and an accident happened. Is it not obvious that the owner of the vehicle or the driver or both of them is responsible? If we start from that point of view, then on the issue of liability, parties are even able to record what we call a consent. Once they record a consent on liability, actually that is it's a part that takes 3/4 of the case period. Once they record a consent on liability, it is very possible that then they agree, since maybe the matatu driver and the owner are to blame. To what extent? Let's say 70% and 30% for the passenger, because they record such consents. Once that is done, then we are now talking about what injuries did this passenger sustain? What is the extent of his disability? That they don't even have to come for hearing. They can again record a consent and say that, let us agree, if you have medical reports on your side as the claimant, you file them. If I have as the defendant, I file. Then we let the court, through our submissions and the injuries, determine the amount. See, if we have such taking place, we will clear very many cases. And once they record a consent, then it's very easy for the insurance company to pay, because they are sort of part of that decision.